Y'all know who it is?
It's your boys! Actually, no one knows who it is. This is our first episode, right? So we have a first episode sound effect. Alright, that's like easily one of the most annoying sounds I've ever heard in my entire life. Alright, so this is going to be our first episode of Rogue and Paladin. I'm Rogue.
I'm Paladin.
And this is our show. We're going to talk about lots of nerd shit. We're going to talk about video games, anime, TV, movies, technology, shit that only nerds are interested in. Thus, the term nerd shit, right?
Indeed.
Okay. So, Paladin and I have known each other for...
What is it?
Christ, how old are we now?
Well, You're 24.
I'm
almost 24.
Older. Okay. So, we've known each other since second grade?
Yeah, second grade.
Second grade or third grade, something like that. So, we've known each other for a really long time. And we decided that we wanted to start our own podcast, and this is it. So, so on and so forth. So, for our first episode, I polled some people about, what are some, like, of the more interesting questions you can ask people to sort of get to know them a little better, so that our audience can, like, know stuff about us without knowing, like, who we are. We have that element of, like, mystery, being as this is a podcast and not a vlog, because I doubt anyone wants to stare at our face for 2 minutes.
No.
Or we just talk into this weird, like, Protoss-looking thing that we're using as our microphone. So, our first question is, what is your real-life alignment, and give one example.
All right, so I'll go first with that one. I probably have the most, distinctive story in that. So, paladins you typically see as being aligned with, lawful good in the traditional sense of the word. I would see myself, I guess, a little more chaotic good. I'm sure that one guy who liked to drill that whole lawful good paladin thing into my head back when I first started playing D&D is, like, shaking in his boots right now. But,
yeah, see, I can see that, too. Like, I know who it is, and I can see them, like, getting angry while you describe this.
That's a story. That's a story for another time. But I'll get into my actual chaotic good story. So there was at school there was this fire and brimstone kind of hate preacher that would hang around campus. Like, this guy showed up at one point. It was the first day of the semester, and it was like, really, come on, man! You're gonna scare all the freshmen. And I mean, yeah, he would come from time to time, every week or two, once a week, sometimes more than once a week, every 2 weeks, something like that. And he would just stand there and spout, the usual stuff. You all are going to hell, because, nothing says Jesus loves you like you all are going to burn in hell, da-da-da-da-da. So he had this sign that it had his opinion on you all deserve hell. So I'm walking by this every day, and, this is getting on my nerves. So one day I'm walking by, I've got my Assassin's Creed sweatshirt on, and it's got the assassin eagle hood and everything. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do something about this. So I drop my stuff off at my next class. I put my hood up, and I walk towards the guy, and he's in the middle of he's having an argument with some other dude, and they're shouting at each other. And I mean, come on, guys, you got to ignore this. You got to ignore this dude. But since there's a crowd around, they're watching I guess if you want to call it a debate, it wasn't really a debate. I digress. So they're in, he's completely focused on the guy he's shouting at. So I run up to him, I yank the sign out of his hand, and I book it towards a nearby building. I've got a picture of this sign, actually. I just dropped it in a nearby trash can, took my sweatshirt off, and just kind of moseyed on back to class. I ended up doing this a second time, actually. This guy, because I guess that
he wasn't smart enough. He wasn't smart enough to leave and stay gone the first time when people are stealing his shit and running past him.
Well, so this happened maybe a semester later, and he was talking to some guy, and he had his sign on the ground behind him. So I just kind of walk up, I bend down, pick the sign up, and just keep on walking like nothing happened. I had a dude give me a thumbs up on the way there. I kept the sign, actually, to bring up my. I brought it back to my apartment. We used it to put wet shoes on for a while. Must have freaked the maintenance guy out who came by to install the air conditioning, where we had a sign that said "You all deserve hell" on the floor. It's like, no, that's the shoe man. Context. Important.
Anyway, right, yeah. So my real life alignment, I would say chaotic good, but definitely for different reasons. Sort of maybe borderlining neutral good. I seem to get into a lot of altercations with guys who are douchebags. Sorry, that's my phone. I seem to get into...
Mine,
yeah, that's a good idea. I seem to get into a lot of altercations with guys who are just douchebags. And,
he's a magnet for things. Like
yeah,
trouble.
like that. And that's the thing about anytime we go out together and we're, like, doing something, nothing ever happens. But if I'm by
When I'm
myself, shit's always happening. Like I had it. Okay, so my example is this guy. I was at a bar, and this guy was like yelling at his date or his girlfriend or the woman he was with, whatever. He's like yelling at her, and he's like treating her like shit and like being mean to her. And he gets up and he smacks her, and he hits her hard enough to get her off her bar stool. Now me, I'm a short guy, like I'm not scary, but you know I've studied martial arts long enough to know how to handle myself in a fight, and I like stand up to this guy, and like the bar is like full of people that are just like, oh no, like what should we do, like, and I just like stand up and I'm like, dude, like what the fuck is wrong with you, like why would anyone do that, like why would you do that? And so you know push came to shove, and literally push came to shove, he tried to start a fight with me and I knocked his ass out, and then security came, and you know so on and so forth. So it's more of like chaotic good in the sense that like I'm gonna do what I think is right. And maybe objectively you could argue that it's right, or you could objectively argue that it's wrong. I guess like the sort of quote like lawful or neutral good thing to do would just be to call security and like let them handle it. But like that's not how you learn. You learn from experience. This guy experienced that he smacked his date, and he experienced that he got knocked the fuck out. Like that's an experience you're gonna remember. Like if you're ever going to be an asshole again, or you're ever going to have a date again, and you decide to get up and smack your date, maybe before you get up and smack your date, you're going to think, you know, maybe I shouldn't do that because maybe somebody else is going to come knock my ass out. And, you know, that's the wrong reason not to smack someone, but, you know, you remember.
See, if I had been there, that probably would have been just a peaceful date night for them, because my presence would have just, like, caused, like, not a scene to happen. Because for whatever reason, things just don't happen when I'm around. Or, I guess, out of the ordinary things tend not to happen when I'm around. I don't have a lot of the stories he has when it comes to dealing with other people.
And I remember the party. Remember the party where the girl threw up and, like, all that shit went down, and I had to, like, leave and, like, drive her home, and she was, like, talking to my boss about, like, her racist dog, and I was like, this is, like, what the fuck are you doing? And, like, you showed up literally after all of that, like, all of the dust finally
I was coming home from a late shift at work.
I'm
like, oh, hey, guys, what's up? And
you were like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, you missed it. And he was like, you know, I bet I fucking did. Anyway, let's get at least one of these other questions out of the way. Okay, what do you consider to be your most useless talent? And I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
Okay, my party trick, I can recite Mulan. Like the
from memory.
Yeah, I can recite the entirety of Mulan. I've seen Mulan enough times over the years. I didn't do this deliberately. I didn't sit down and like marathon Mulan for 24 hours until I could like recite everything. But for whatever reason, I've seen Mulan enough times over the years. I can recite it from memory.
Okay, so now you have to prove some of it though. Do like I don't know, like 30 seconds of like of Mushu.
Give me a scene.
The scene with the great dragon, or the stone dragon.
Oh, that's a hard one, though.
Okay, I don't know. Just anything.
Okay, I'll start with George Takei. Mushu, awaken!
Oh, okay, I know what this is.
I live! So tell me what mortal needs my protection, great ancestor. You just say the word, and I'm it, Mushu. Now let me say something. Anybody who's foolish enough to threaten our family, vengeance will be mine! Mushu! These are the family guardians. They protect the family. And you, O demoted one, I ring the gong. That's right.
See, now, I always forget that this is... I'm going to interrupt you so that we don't go on for the next 2 hours reciting the rest of the movie. But I always forget that that's that the head ancestor is George Takei until I hear you doing it. Like, I could watch the movie completely separately and be like, oh, that's a voice actor. Like, okay. And then anytime I hear you do it, I'm like, yes, it's George Takei. Obviously, of course. So we're running low on time.
We gotta get a few more questions out of the way, though.
Well, yeah, we can always have, whatever. So my most useless talent, I think, is probably knowing Mandalorian. Now, if you don't know... Mandalorians are a fictional race from the Star Wars extended universe. For from the movies, Jango Fett and Boba Fett are Mandalorians. And so I have their symbol actually tattooed on my arm, and I can speak the language from the planet that they're from. They're from Mandalore.
I was there when he got that tattoo. That was fun to watch.
We're not going to talk about that. Anyway, so my favorite Mandalorian quote is, "It doesn't matter who your father was, only the father you will be." And that in Mandalorian is Gar Taldin ni Jaelnik Gar Sabur Ori Wadasla. And that's Mandalorian. It sounds, of course, like gibberish, but, feel free to look it up on, what is it, Wikipedia?
Wikipedia, yeah.
The Star Wars wiki.
I was trying to say it earlier. I'm like,
It's Slavic, the roots, of course. Okay, so let's do one more question, and then we'll cut it off because this episode's running a little bit longer than I had originally planned. So you can go ahead with the next question.
All right, so what is something that irritates only you? So I'll let you answer that first.
Something that irritates only me. Having to repeat myself more than once. And I know other people, get irritated about this, but I feel like it irritates me more so to the point of where it's, sort of unreasonable. But, if I'm somewhere and I say something and someone's like, "Oh, I did, pardon me, I didn't hear you," or I'm talking to someone and I'm like, "Hey, Ian," or "Hey, Joe, what's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, what?" And I repeat myself. I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" And where I'm looking at them and I'm speaking to them directly and they still don't hear me, I sort of get unreasonably upset about that. And it's just one of those things that just irritates me unreasonably.
I mean, I don't know what would get me upset. I mean, this doesn't get me upset. It's just something that sort of gets under my skin. I don't like when people overthink things that probably didn't have that much thought put into it in the first place. The kinds of videos that pop up on your YouTube sidebar of these really wild out there theories from. Theories is the wrong word. It's is Ash is dead in Pokemon. Here's proof. What?
I've seen that one, actually.
Yeah, or Kylo Ren loves Rey. Here's proof. It's guys, the video wasn't that detailed. I think you're looking into this a little too much. I mean, I'm a simple guy. I'm easily entertained is the wrong word. I'm a simple guy. I like simple, straightforward.
Shiny things.
No, I'm not a bird.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean about there's a lot of money to be made in conspiracy theories, but I know what you mean about reading way too much into a seemingly simple clip or a seemingly 30 seconds or 45 seconds of
Destiny
audio.
Deoxys is a metaphor for human hysteria.
It's just a metaphor for man's inhumanity to man.
It's a shitty vampire show.
Yeah, we'll get into the context of the ins and outs of the dialogue in Saints Row 3. Not in this episode. That'll probably be a while from now.
You could dedicate a whole episode to that.
Probably, at least one. So that's all we're going to have time for today. Our next episode will be out when we feel like it.
Ideally next week.
I mean, yeah. So I guess like and subscribe. Yeah, I can feel you rolling your eyes. Give us some comments, though, about, what we can do better, what we can do differently, stuff you want us to talk about.
I hope that yelling didn't, cause static.
I don't know. We'll find out. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.